So, what happens when a prince and a pauper, who, get this, look exactly alike, decide to swap clothes just for kicks? Well, in this part of our explainer on The Prince and the Pauper, we're diving into Chapter 2, where that little game just completely spirals out of control. It becomes this terrifying new reality for both of them, forcing them to live each other's lives. Let's jump right in. I mean, the entire story really hinges on this one single, incredibly ironic switch. You've got Prince Edward, the actual heir to the throne, suddenly tossed into the dirt and grime of a commoner's life. And at the very same time, poor Tom Canty, a kid from the roughest part of London, is suddenly being treated like royalty. It's not just that their worlds have changed, they've been completely flipped upside down.
Okay, so let's start with the real prince, Edward. He's just been, physically chucked out of his own palace. Can you imagine? He's stumbling through the streets trying to get to Tom's neighborhood, a place called Pudding Lane, just hoping to find his new friend. But oh man, what's waiting for him there? It's an absolute nightmare.
Right, so the second Edward gets there, he's immediately cornered by this furious man. And this is Tom's father, John Canty, who is clearly drunk and, just really, really angry. He sees the boy wearing his son's raggedy clothes and instantly starts yelling at him, demanding the money he figures the kid has been out begging for all day. But, you gotta look at this from John Canty's point of view for a second. The kid standing in front of him, he looks exactly like his son Tom, and he's wearing Tom's clothes. So when this boy starts spouting these wild claims about being the Prince of Wales, well, John's reaction just goes from disbelief to laughing at him, and then, finally, to just pure, unadulterated rage.
And Edward, he's not backing down. He's desperately trying to explain who he is. I mean, he is speaking the absolute 100% truth to this guy, the one person he thinks might be able to help him. But to John Canty, it just sounds like he's listening to a total madman.
All right, so let's leave the poor prince in that really dangerous spot for a minute and flip back to the palace. What about our pauper, Tom Canty? How's he handling his end of the bargain? Well, he's surrounded by all this insane luxury, but it's turning into a gilded cage, and fast.
At first, it's like a dream come true, right? Tom's just wandering the halls of Westminster Palace, completely starstruck, looking at these portraits of kings and queens he's only ever read about in books. But then, the hours start to tick by, and the real prince, he doesn't come back, and that initial sense of wonder starts to curdle into just raw panic.
And he's not thinking about power or riches, not at all. His mind is totally fixed on his family, on his sisters, Bet and Nan. He's terrified about what's happening to them, and he has absolutely no clue how he could ever explain any of this. In the middle of this huge, crowded palace, he is completely and utterly alone.
So his fear just builds and builds until he can't take it anymore. He tries to make a run for it. He manages to open a door, but what's on the other side? 4 gentlemen who just immediately stand up and bow to him. See, every single thing he does to try and act normal is just interpreted as some weird royal eccentricity. He's so scared he just backs right into the room again. He is well and truly trapped.
And just when he's about to completely lose it, the door opens again. But this time, it's different. It's a young girl, and she actually seems kind, gentle. She calls him Edward and says she's his cousin, Lady Jane. And for just a second, you think, maybe he's found someone he can actually talk to. But nope, that little flicker of hope, it gets snuffed out almost immediately. Turns out, Jane isn't there to help him escape. She's there to take him to see his father. Tom is about to come face to face with the most powerful and probably most feared man in all of England, King Henry VIII himself.
So Tom gets led into this huge, ridiculously fancy bedroom, and there's King Henry VIII just lying in his bed, and he looks old, he looks sick, and you can just see the impatience on his face. This is definitely not a guy you want to get on the wrong side of.
Somehow, through all his terror, Tom knows this is it. This is his one shot. He scrapes together every last bit of courage he has and says something absolutely unbelievable, straight to the king's face. He confesses he's not the prince.
The king's reaction, it's immediate, and it is harsh. He just brushes it off as foolish talk. The idea that this kid could actually be telling the truth doesn't even enter his mind. As far as he's concerned, his son is just having some sort of episode, He's lost his mind.
Yeah, the king is so convinced his son is just sick that he completely changes the subject. He starts reminding the boy, who he thinks is Prince Edward, of course, about a big royal banquet happening that night. He's not listening at all. He's giving an order.
And just like that, Tom's one shot at getting out of there, poof, it's gone.
But wait, it gets worse. The whole ordeal is not over yet, because now the king makes one more request. It seems like a simple little test, but it's one that poor Tom has zero chance of passing. This is about to dig his hole even deeper. He asks for the Great Seal of England. This thing is like the ultimate symbol of royal power, and the king is dead certain he gave it to Prince Edward just a couple of days ago, and now he wants it back. So he's asking Tom to hand over something Tom has never seen, never touched, probably never even heard of before in his life.
And Tom's response? It's perfect. It says everything. Just, the what? He has absolutely no idea what the king is talking about. And, of course, his very real confusion just makes him look even more suspicious.
And then, to make things even worse, the king turns to this other guy in the room, a nobleman named Lord Hertford, and asks for confirmation. And Hertford, of course, immediately says, "Yes, Your Majesty." So now it's 2 against 1. Tom is completely boxed in.
So, the king finally lands on his own conclusion. He doesn't think Tom is an imposter. No. He decides his son must be seriously ill, that his memory has just gone haywire. In the king's mind, the boy isn't lying. He's just sick. And with that one simple diagnosis, Tom's fake identity just became his permanent reality. Okay, let's just pause for a second and look at the unbelievable mess both of these boys are in. They've basically become two sides of the exact same coin, right? And each one is a prisoner of the other's life. So you have Edward, the actual prince, out on the streets literally getting beaten up for telling the truth. And at the same time, you have Tom stuck in the palace, quickly realizing that if he tells the truth, he could be executed for being a traitor. He really has no choice. He has to live this life if he wants to stay alive. And all of this leaves us with one last question to think about. Tom is now holding on to a massive royal secret that he doesn't even understand. And Edward, he's got the truth, but it's a truth that no one on earth will believe. So you tell me, who do you think is in more danger here? The pauper stuck in the palace or the prince lost in the streets?